Okay, the last thing is what happens if they decide to not dribble at the basket, but dribble at a teammate instead. There's a different, it's not really that, it's not really too different, but it is something that we need to understand and know. So if she dribbles at a player, that player that she's dribbling at immediately cuts. And then she takes here, and then we just fill up, cut out. So it's a lot like when we pass and cut. So let's say she just decides to dribble at this player. This player cuts here, here, fill, and out. Start at the top again. Let's say she decides to dribble at this player. This player immediately cuts, fills, fill, out. Let's say she decides to dribble at this player. She decides to cut immediately, fill, 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 fill. The only position, again, where it's just a little bit different, and it's not even really different, it's just you have to be aware of it, and that is, of course, these corners. So if you have the ball here and you decide to dribble at your teammate and take this spot, this teammate automatically cuts. I just want to make sure you guys understand that as soon as this teammate decides to dribble, the second she puts down that ball to dribble this way, this person is immediately cutting. So then she's driving, or she's dribbling up to this position. This player cuts, but then cuts to this side. So it's like they're just switching. So let's say she decides to dribble at, this player immediately cuts, and then this player fills up, cut out. Let's say she decides to dribble at, this player immediately cuts, fill, fill, fill. This player decides to dribble at, cut, fill, 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 and cut out. This player decides to dribble at, this player is cutting, and then just filling the spot that the player came from. So now you know a little bit about how do we react when the person with the ball decides to dribble at the basket, decides to dribble at a teammate, or decides to pass. And I don't know if you've picked up a couple things, but if you notice, all of these players are moving in different positions. So when you are playing in this offense, in the read and react, as a player, just know that we're not putting a certain player in this position. We're not putting a certain player in this position. We're not doing that. This is a positionless system of playing. So that means you're playing in each one of these spots, because you're constantly rotating, you're constantly cutting, you're constantly filling up or cutting out, and so you're always having a new position to play, which is great for you because as a player, that means you get to have an opportunity to learn and see the court from different perspectives, and that's good for you. And then the other thing that I don't know if you noticed, but the reason why it's called a read and react is because the people without the ball, are reacting to what the person with the ball is doing. That is why it's called a read and react. And when you are cutting, in practice, we're going to get into how do you react to your defender as you are moving around the court depending on what the player with the ball does. And this is where the scoring opportunities happen. So in practice, we will be practicing when you're cutting, how do you know, do you cut on the back side of the player? Do you cut in front of the defender? When do you cut? How do you cut? All those things are going to be taught in practice. And the other thing is, when we're doing our one-on-ones, when you have the ball, when you're the one player that has the ball, what decision are you making with the ball? Are you deciding to dribble to the hoop and take that person, maybe take your defender one-on-one? Or are you deciding to dribble at a teammate instead? Or are you deciding to pass the ball? And we will give you situations on how to read the defense to help you determine which one of those three things to do. So when you put all of that together, it creates a really nice offense, and an offense that I think that are going to be pretty powerful at. So I'm really excited to get going on this with you. So thank you for watching. See you at practice.